Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to break down a brand new framework that's designed to solve one of the single biggest challenges in business right now: how to actually successfully adopt generative AI.
It's the question that's on pretty much everyone's mind, right? And it turns out the path to GenAI's success looks totally different depending on the size of your company. And, most of the guides out there, they completely miss this crucial point.
So in this explainer, we're going to look at the core problem first. Then I'll introduce you to a really powerful new solution. We'll walk through its playbook step by step, and finally, we'll talk about how to make it all work for your own organization. All right, let's just dive right in.
Okay, so the fundamental challenge is this. A mid-sized company and a huge enterprise are basically playing two completely different games when it comes to adopting GenAI. They're facing different obstacles, so they're going to need different strategies. And this slide just breaks it down perfectly. You've got your mid-size organizations. They're what we call resource-constrained. Yeah, they're agile, but they just don't have the deep pockets or the specialized teams to just experiment freely. And then on the other side, you've got the large enterprises. They're complexity-constrained. They've got the money, they've got the people, but they get so bogged down by bureaucracy, old legacy systems, and just the sheer challenge of getting thousands of people on the same page. Now, what's really interesting here is why the old models, things like the technology acceptance model, or TAM, or the TOE framework, why they just fall short. You can see it right there in the table. They are way too generic. The fatal flaw is that these old models just assume all tech is the same. But GenAI, well, it's a different beast. With its own unique challenges like hallucinations and prompt engineering, it demands a tailor-made approach. And that creates this huge gap, leaving most companies trying to navigate without a proper map.
And that is exactly where this new solution comes in. It's really the first framework that's been built from the ground up to guide both mid-size orgs and large enterprises on their own unique GenAI journeys. It's called FAIGMOE, which, I know, stands for Framework for the Adoption and Integration of Generative AI in Midsize Organizations and Enterprises. It's a bit of a mouthful, but what it does is really powerful. It takes all these established, battle-tested theories on tech adoption and change management and distills them into one single, actionable playbook for right now. See, it's built on proven ideas, basically pulling from the best of the best. It forces you to ask the really essential questions before you even think about starting. Like, is your tech actually ready for GenAI? Will your people really use it? How is this thing going to spread beyond a tiny team? And maybe most importantly, how do you manage the very human side of such a massive change? So how does this actually work in practice? Well, FAIGMOE lays out a super clear four-phase cycle that's both logical and, thankfully, pretty flexible. Let's walk through how this whole thing comes together. Okay, so the framework moves you through strategic assessment, then into planning, then implementation, and finally, operationalization and optimization. But, and this is key, look at the arrows. It's not just a straight line. It is a continuous feedback loop which lets you learn and adapt as you go along. All right, first up, you assess. And this isn't about wishful thinking. This is about getting an honest, clear-eyed look at where you stand. What are your capability gaps? Do you need data scientists, prompt engineers? And what are the real risks here before you write a single line of code? Next, you plan. This is where you connect GenAI directly to actual concrete business goals. So instead of just saying, let's use AI, you're picking specific high-value projects to start with. And you're building a detailed roadmap for how you're going to get there, with governance baked in from day one. Then you implement. This means you start small. You run pilot programs so you can learn, fail fast, and iterate. This is where you roll out the tech, but just as importantly, it's where you bring your people along for the ride with clear communication and real training. And finally, you operationalize and optimize. This is where GenAI stops being some special project and just becomes part of your company's DNA. It's all about monitoring its performance with hard data, constantly improving your models, and then strategically scaling the wins across the whole organization. Of course, any framework is only as good as its execution, right? So the really crucial part is understanding what actually makes or breaks a GenAI adoption initiative. This is where the rubber really meets the road. So what does success actually look like? Well, it pretty much boils down to these 5 things. You have to have visible leadership from the top, not just a quiet sign-off. You need to get everyone on board, from finance to legal, not just the tech team. You absolutely have to start small and learn from pilots. You've got to keep investing in your people's skills, and you have to manage risk from day one, not as some afterthought. And this slide brilliantly lays out the pitfalls to watch for, because this is where so many initiatives go wrong. You have to avoid projects that don't have a clear link to business value. Make sure your data is actually ready for this. And please, do not skimp on change management. That's probably the #1 reason projects fail. Oh, and resist that urge to scale too quickly before you've actually proven the value.
So as you think about bringing GenAI into your world, the FAIGMOE framework really does provide a much-needed map. And it leaves us with the single most important question you can ask, the one that's really at the heart of this entire framework. Are you trying to solve a real problem, or are you just chasing hype?